Hey, what's going on, Auburn fans? Lauren Sisler here with AL.com, kicking off week 2 of the SEC college football season. Auburn heading on the road to kick it off with Georgia. And hanging out with me this morning for a little pregame. I don't know. What are we calling this? Like pregame? I don't know. Serenade.
This is a breakfast tailgate is what this is.
Breakfast tailgate in the living room. I'm in a hotel room, but you're hanging out in the bedroom. I don't know where you're at. You're in the kids' room, right?
I'm in my kids' playroom, which is why there is such colorful artwork behind me.
I love it. It's good stuff. Hey, things are going to get a little colorful today as we head into week 2 of the SEC college football season. Week 5, for those of you who are keeping track, it's all convoluted and messed up.
Yep.
But anyways, long story short is we are here. We are talking Auburn. We are talking Georgia. So Matty Ice, first and foremost, I want to know from you, what is the one thing you're excited to see from Auburn today?
I'm pretty excited just about the concept of a huge major rivalry game this early in the season. As somebody that covers Alabama and Auburn, I don't see this very often. It's pretty much always, we've got obviously the Iron Bowl is typically how we close the regular season here. And then, we've got Auburn, Georgia, that's usually been just a couple of weeks before that. It's weird. Even though this whole season has been delayed, it's so weird to have Auburn, Georgia playing this early in the season. And we knew that was going to happen to some extent already because they had decided to sort of mix things up in Auburn's scheduling rotation so that they didn't have to do that back-to-back Georgia-Alabama stretch. But still, it's just very weird for this to be the second game of the season for Auburn. And I think, to me, it still feels like we know so little about these Auburn and Georgia teams that there's so much unpredictability and sort of a chaos factor heading into this game today that we're not used to seeing. But you're used to going into a rivalry game kind of knowing the identity of the two teams. We don't have that at all right now. I mean, we're going to learn a lot about both of these teams in a hugely important game.
Yeah, I agree. I was pulling up some stats as you're talking here. I think it's interesting. Like you said, they're going on the road to Georgia. We're accustomed to seeing this football game the week before the cupcake week before the Iron Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Alan Green had pretty much said, "Hey, we got to change this up." I mean, these are the two biggest rivalry games, and we are playing them pretty much back to back, right? And so I think the thought process was like, let's get this earlier in the season. And obviously when the new schedule came out, I'm excited about it. I think it's kind of that juice that you get excited about. And you're like, okay, here's like a barometer game, right? Like we're going to really know what kind of Auburn or talent Auburn has coming out of this one. So I'm extremely excited to see what they come up with. Obviously, defensively, they did some great things against Kentucky last week, but offensively, I'm really excited just to see what they're able to do more specifically in the run game. I think that was obviously something that, was absent last week. And looking at the statistics, you think about it, like Bo Nix was the leading rusher and Sean Shivers had 29 yards. It's just like, wow, like this is crazy. But all that to say, when you see, Bo Nix connecting with Seth Williams and doing some crazy things, like, hey, that's fun football. That's fun to watch. So I'm anxious to sort of see how they lay things out, what that roadmap looks like. What Chad Morris brings to this offense. I think that this offense is going to continue to evolve this season, much like every football team out there, trying to figure things out, shuffle things around. And so that brings me to the next question, biggest challenge Georgia poses. And for me, I'm going to say the fact that, Auburn hasn't really been able to prepare for a specific quarterback. Obviously, they've seen Stetson Bennett on tape. But I think here's the thing, if JT Daniels ends up getting the start. Now, I think the favorite is Bennett. He was 20 of 29 passing. He netted 211 yards, 2 touchdowns in Georgia's win over Arkansas last week, 37-10. But I do think that Bennett is certainly the favorite to start. He does have some mobility. He's obviously a veteran guy. He's a 4th-year junior. And I think he does pose some threats for Auburn. But then if JT Daniels obviously gets in the game, which I think we will see JT Daniels, he's an NFL caliber quarterback. He's got the arm. He's got the arm talent. So I think that's going to be something I'm looking at seeing from the Georgia side of the football and a potential challenge depending on what those guys step up with and how they're able to defend it from the Auburn defense.
Well, yeah, I agree. I don't think we're going to see a ton of Daniels, but I think he will work his way into the game in some capacity, which, it makes you a little bit nervous. You don't know when they're going to sort of pull that on you at some point. It's kind of a gimmick for Kirby to pull out of his pocket when he needs something to change the offense up.
Right.
But, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier in terms of the biggest challenge that this game could pose to Auburn. To me, as you said, Auburn was really able to get it done last week almost entirely through the air against Kentucky offensively. And I think they're going to need to be a little bit more balanced this week. I don't know that they're going to be able to just chuck it around the field to Seth Williams the whole game. I think they definitely will have some success doing that, but I think you've got to find a way to mix things up and keep Georgia guessing a little bit. And that involves getting something going in the run game. Georgia's secondary, I think, is just too good to just sit back and throw it all day. And Auburn's offensive line still has some issues they need to work out. So you really just, if for no other reason than to protect Bo Nix, this offense needs to get a little bit more diverse and needs to try and do a few other things. Georgia's defense came away with 3 interceptions last week. I know it was against a not very good Arkansas team, but this is a big step up in terms of defensive talent from what Auburn saw a week ago. So they're going to need to play at a higher level in every phase of the game, but including play calling from Chad Morris and Gus Malzahn in terms of the decisions they make. They're going to need to protect Bo Nix, and they're going to need to mix things up offensively. And sometimes that's going to mean running the ball when it's not productive, just to keep the Georgia defense honest. I think Auburn fans need to prepare themselves for that a little bit today. Get your mind right and get yourself ready to be patient with seeing some runs up the middle that don't go for very many yards. But it's something that you've got to do to keep that Georgia defense sucked in and honest, so that you can open up the possibility for those big throws to Seth Williams and the rest of those receivers.
Yeah, I think you make a lot of great points there. And so that kind of gets us to our bold prediction. And, I guess this won't come as a shock to many people because I did the Auburn head-to-head earlier this week. But my bold prediction is that Auburn is going to – I just have a feeling about this football game. I could be completely wrong. But my prediction for this game, 24-20, Auburn wins this. That is a bold prediction, in my opinion, because we're talking about a game on the road
against
Georgia.
Upset, yeah.
And it would be an upset. And I don't know. There's just something about this team. What we saw in week 1, yes, still plenty of things to clean up. There's a lot to clean up. That offensive line, especially, they're shifting guys around. They're young. They've got some things to figure out. But I do think that if they can get some offensive production and get some good stops, and maybe a turnover to swing the momentum in their favor, I think it's going to be a close game. I think if Auburn is able to put off, it might be a late touchdown, a late field goal, whatever it may be. But that's my bold prediction, Matt. I don't know.
I'm going to start my bold prediction with a quick practice that I want everybody, all the Auburn fans at home watching, to do this with me. And we want to go in through our nose and out through our mouth, because you're gonna have a lot. I think this is going to be a 1-possession game from start to finish. I think this is going to be a close, hard-fought, low-scoring battle. And I know, look, I see it every week on social media. I always see Auburn fans say, I wish we could have one game where we were not clutching our hearts and breathing heavily the whole entire game from stress. But unfortunately, I think that's going to be the case today. I think that you're going to have a close, tough game that's going to be very stressful to watch all the way through. But I will say this. I'm not sure there are very many coaches I would rather have in a close game in the fourth quarter than Gus Malzahn. He is extremely good at finding a way to give his team a late advantage that nobody saw coming and pull off a close win. One of the best close game coaches in college football. So I like Auburn winning this game, but I do think that it is not going to be relaxing. I think y'all are going to need to do some deep breathing throughout the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So the game kicking off 6:30 ESPN, 6:30 Central Time, Auburn at Georgia. Woo, I'm with you. I'm already kind of like getting in on my breathing exercises. You got me sort of going right now. What? So it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking for a great slate of games. Week 2 of the SEC football season. Good stuff. Matt, we appreciate you. And of course, I know you'll be back on for a recap of that game late tonight. So as soon as the game ends, you'll be there hanging out with our buddy Wes Signer. And yeah, appreciate you. And oh, yes. One more thing I wanted to mention. Thank you, Patrick, for the reminder. So news broke. I guess it was this morning that the news broke that
Yep.
Patriots quarterback Cam Newton has tested positive for COVID. So he will be out against Kansas City. However, that opens the door for former Auburn quarterback Jarrett Stidham to now get the start against Kansas City for the Patriots. So, of course, we want to send our well wishes to Cam Newton. Hopefully, this is not a severe case, mild symptoms, hopefully, and that he can get through this and be able to get back on the field and up to feeling well. And then, of course, Jarrett Stidham, wishing him well for his first start for the Patriots, right? This will be his first start.
That's right.
With the Patriots, and looking forward to seeing how he performs this weekend. So definitely wishing them both the best. And again, Cam Newton testing positive for COVID, and hopefully he'll be on his way to a fast and speedy recovery. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Matty Ice. Thank you, and thank you.